side of the pond, the Thanksgiving leftovers edition.
It's our Sweet 16 as well.
It is. DJ Schweitzer, I'm Jeremy Lance. Holiday season in full bloom.
I put up my tree today.
Did you?
Yeah.
That was on the docket, but did not happen.
Yeah, my wife was itching at me, so she really wanted it done.
See, I'm probably kind of more like her.
Mm-hmm.
I like that thing up. I'd prefer it up weekend before Thanksgiving.
Wow, jumping the gun a little bit.
That's my style.
You like your holidays bleeding together a little bit.
So the fact that like it's currently what's Sunday night, 1st of December.
Mm-hmm.
Almost a full day has gone into the month of December.
Right.
And there's no tree in my house, and that's destroying me.
Well, if you don't have it up soon, Santa will definitely skip your house over.
Oh yeah, my son.
And that would be a disaster.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my children will not be happy about that.
No, I would imagine not. So, get on it.
Yeah, so we got the Thanksgiving. Everyone's kind of shaking off the break that we got there.
Did you get out and do any Black Friday shopping at all?
No, I pulled babysitting duty.
Okay.
The men pulled babysitting duty. I was in Milwaukee visiting the folks.
Okay.
I had both my brothers and my brother Josh, his wife, and his son Nathan. They came, and then my younger brother, who's just a loner, so he came by himself.
Everyone needs one of those in their family.
Well, he's a younger guy.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not that big of a deal. So they came. So Wednesday, the guys, we went out to a brewery tour at New Glarus Brewing Company in Wisconsin, which is...
That sounded amazing.
Oh, it's fantastic. Some of the
Okay.
best beer you'll ever have, which, unless you're in Wisconsin, you won't have it because they only choose to make enough for the state of Wisconsin.
Well, that's nice of them.
They win. I mean, we saw their little case there. They had like a dozen or so medals from the Great American Craft Beer Expo.
Well, so that they just want to keep it exclusive.
They keep it in state. It's in this little New Glarus, Wisconsin, the little Switzerland
Okay.
of America.
Interesting.
So cool little place. So we got to do that Wednesday. That was the guys' thing Wednesday. Friday, the women went out shopping. We had to sit there and take care of 4
Offspring.
not so cooperative children.
Okay. So
All under the age of 3.
So would it have been worse or better for you to have done Black Friday shopping?
I hear it's a sucker's bet, that
Yeah.
whole Black Friday. There's better, especially now, there's deals online.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of them, actually, I think some stores were like, yeah, you can just get the same deals online this year.
We went out. It's kind of my wife's family tradition to go out and do some Black Friday shopping.
See, my mom's so she had to do it.
Yeah,
so she was kind of the one that scheduled this event. I don't know if my wife was really that into the idea either.
Yeah, so my mother-in-law also drags us all out. And, we went out, and I unashamedly bought myself some stuff,
Yeah.
because there's some good deals that day.
Taking care of number one.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also snared a new camera online, so I'm pretty excited about
There you
that.
go.
Yeah. So I'll be snapping cool pictures and putting them on Instagram, kids. Keeping an eye out for that.
Can't wait for Cyber Monday.
I know, right?
Lots to talk about. Obviously, a full weekend of EPL. And, don't look now. There's going to be a full week of EPL.
Yeah, there won't be any time to breathe.
No, we got games starting back up Tuesday. Probably by the time this is released.
Mm-hmm.
That 3 p.m. match. It's terrible. I forget what it was, but it's not a good one.
It's not exactly one that's going to kickstart your week of soccer off correctly.
No, I do believe West Ham is involved.
Yeah.
So, not a good one, but Wednesday, everyone else goes. So, we have EPL midweek.
Mm-hmm.
We got some weekend action.
Yep.
Couple decent matches. Going to be a grind for the Scousers.
Yeah, it will be.
For those Toffees.
Yeah, the Toffees will have a tough, torrid run.
Yeah, they got a rough week ahead of us. But full slate of games. Liverpool, kind of the shock result of the weekend. They lose. Arsenal, Chelsea, Everton, and City get W's, while Tottenham and United
knotted it up.
They settle for a draw.
And everyone was happy.
Something we've been clamoring about for far too long, considering it's somebody's employment we're talking about. Martin Jol, finally, the dagger.
riding off into the sunset.
He's done.
It was a long time coming. I think we had called his firing, 4 or 5 consecutive weeks.
There were several times where we said, I mean, if they can't win this week, he's got to be gone, right?
I think you had suggested that Jol had some, naughty pictures, some
photos.
Some photos of the chairman, that he was using for blackmail. That was the only reason he was still around. So
him and the chairman of the Michael Jackson statue.
Yeah. Some very unfortunate pictures were taken, and Martin just so happened to snap them on his cell phone.
Champions League action took place over the week, which was nice for those of you like me that had some days off.
Mm-hmm.
Got to enjoy a little bit more of that than usual.
Yeah, that's nice.
We got Landon Donovan made his broadcasting debut as he was in the studio with Stoney and
calling some Champions League action.
Yeah, him and it was kind of interesting. It was McBride, it was Landon, and it was Winalda. 3 most prolific scorers
in U.S. men's national team history.
So that was kind of cool that you had that. That was your analyst.
Right.
That was your pool of analysts. Well, then Warren Barton was just kind of
hanging
skulking
out
around.
Yeah. I played for Newcastle. Yeah. Just a reminder. All right, Warren.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool story. We had a couple teams that actually make it through. So we're getting a bit of a better picture.
Right.
As to what the Champions League knockout rounds will look like.
Yeah, you kind of laid it out for us this week, and or last week.
Yeah.
Now we can dip back into this week's results and see how you did.
So, four teams have joined the 4 teams that were already in.
Mm-hmm.
And things will get tight. We'll wait till we get close to the actual final match day 6.
Yeah.
To kind of break down what has to happen.
Yeah, we got some time on that one.
And then the big one stateside.
Yeah.
Is this weekend.
I almost forgot it was happening.
MLS Cup. They try to hide it on you.
Yeah, they did. After a couple weeks off and another couple weeks off, we're actually finally getting around to the final. So
it's not like they're going to go up against any big games.
No.
Outside of, the SEC championship game.
Oh, yeah, there's that. And that's the other football. We're not talking about the SEC soccer championship.
Right. And Baylor v. Texas.
Ooh.
So that's happening. But outside of that, that's your best option at 4 p.m. on Saturday.
Yeah. I know I'll be watching that.
You will be watching. We'll talk about that a little later. Let's get into the EPL action from the weekend. We'll start with Saturday.
Okay.
And we'll start with one that was a bit of a romp. Everton 4, Stoke 0.
Wow. Was that English tiki-taka that we got to watch?
It might have been.
I mean, that's something that was suggested a lot over the weekend after Martinez's men completely plowed through Stoke City.
I mean, Stoke's not a good side.
No.
And they're not going to score many goals.
Well, they're, when Breck Shea is your best option off the bench.
Sure. He's a pop off the bench.
Hey, but he got off the bench today.
That was the big thing. He actually got on 59th minute. Shea made his appearance, so we had last week him finally making a team sheet.
Yeah.
For an EPL match this season.
This week he gets to play.
He's on the bench, but actually gets in.
Okay.
So I guess he's starting this week.
Well,
he probably will.
If we're following natural progression, he'll start.
Well, and plus we have 2 matches in a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the odds are decent that he might get a start.
He could get one in there. Maybe they're just loosening him up.
You know what? You're freaking stoked. You might as well just... What else you got?
Drop in the crazy American kid.
What else you going to do?
Yeah. He's been painting all over everything. Just throw him in the match.
He likes that painting a little too much.
Yeah, he does. But Everton were pretty impressive, weren't they?
They were impressive. I mean, it's one of those things, and we talk about it a lot in some of these blowout matches. It's hard to tell what you're watching. If you're watching just the dominance of a really great Premier League side that has it all together, that everything's flowing, they can take on the world that day, or is a lot of what you're seeing, this is a crap opponent?
Well, I don't think we can rule out the latter option. I mean,
because it was a crap opponent.
Yeah. Stoke, not exactly, one of the finest teams in the EPL. But I do think that Everton are kind of firing on full cylinders at the moment, and Martinez has organized them and rallied the troops in a way that's made them a really impressive team to watch when they have everything working. I mean, the first name that everyone's going to talk a little bit about this weekend with this match has to be, and I don't know if anyone knows how to correctly say it. This is one of those weird ones, but it's Jol-ly, the Barcelona loanee.
I have no idea how it's pronounced because I feel like every time I hear it, it's pronounced differently.
Yeah. So I apologize if I'm butchering your name. But Jol-ly was marvelous. I mean, you can see why Barcelona rate him so highly. It was kind of confusing, all the hype about him moving over to Everton prior to the move, and he came over, and he's been really sparingly used so far this season. And now that he's actually cracked into the lineup, he's been extremely impactful. So it's fun watching that. I think he was a good spark for that.
Yeah, I got to watch some of this match with my brother, who's an Everton supporter.
Okay.
And he was excited about this guy, but he goes, yeah, he just makes these great runs, and he puts himself in position and drives into the box, and then just nothing.
Yeah, I mean
he fails to seal the deal.
Yeah, he finally scored this weekend and provided an assist as well.
He finally pulled it off.
Yeah, I think part of his issue in that department is youth.
He's a young dude.
He is a young lad, and he's not necessarily as learned in the ways or as crafty as one might be when you've got a little bit more experience under your belt. The other side of that is, too, I think he's a little hot-headed and will kind of put himself into a position where he thinks he needs to beat the player in front of him.
Where he's probably taking shots that
probably shouldn't be taken.
Maybe pass is the better option.
Yeah, but you can't fault the kid for trying, and I definitely think that was a man-of-the-match type performance from him. I think he spearheaded everything that Everton was really getting into throughout the match.
Of course, I have to mention it. Lukaku.
Oh, yeah, he scored.
With another one.
But you can't be too salty because you guys actually had a striker score today as well.
We did. Oh, yeah, that was the one we all wanted to score, right?
That's
the one
very
we were
true.
all cheering on.
That's very true, but we'll get into that one a little bit later on.
Let's talk about a little the correlation here, though. Let's talk about the Lukaku Mourinho dust-up that happened midweek, where during it was the Friday press conference, Mourinho finally kind of was tired of Lukaku kind of apparently talking too much.
Yeah.
And pretty much said, you know what? Why don't you ask? He said he talks a lot, but he doesn't talk about why he's at Everton and not at Chelsea right now. Why don't you ask him about that? I think he needs to be the one to tell you about that. I guess it did kind of come out this weekend that reports are suggesting that Lukaku put in the transfer request or the loan request right away as that season started this year.
Interesting.
So, and that was before, minds were made up. That was before he crapped away the super crap against Bayern Munich.
Right.
Which, if anything, I think that's what it all comes down to in a lot of ways is if there's one thing Mourinho doesn't like to do, it's lose to Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, he does.
And I think that stung a little too much with him.
And he was always going to ship him out. No, I mean, I think that's a really interesting point. I'd like to hear a little bit more elaboration on it. I'd like to hear Mourinho talk about it as well.
And this is all that Mourinho is saying. So you tell him to talk about it. And then this is typical Mourinho cryptic press conferences that just...
Did he say it with a little smirk on his face?
Oh, of course he did.
I'm sure he did. Why don't you ask him about it? Little eyebrow flick up.
To be fair to Mourinho, though, Lukaku did this a little bit last year. He thought he had earned himself a job at Chelsea.
Right.
They ship him off, and he did pop off about how he was glad he was gone.
Right.
And he said he was glad that he was on Chelsea, and he was glad that he was away.
But he also has a habit of saying as well that it's always been his dream to play for Chelsea, and that he still wants that job.
But is that just his agent saying, hey, why don't you kind of tone that down? Why don't you kind of tone that crap talking down? They still own your rights.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a really intriguing situation. You do wonder why someone as clearly talented as Lukaku was let go.
But it's, the point I was getting to is this is not a Mourinho thing. The Chelsea-Lukaku relationship has been a confusing, complicated sort of relationship.
Right.
Since the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of something that popped up, and it makes you wonder, because I know there are a lot of Chelsea supporters that are so confident that he will be wearing the Chelsea blue next year.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not feeling it.
I mean, if he keeps pouring in the goals the way he has, you guys really won't have much of a choice, right? That's way too much pressure. Let's say he gets 20, 25 goals this season, which I think is realistic at the pace he's going at the moment. Yeah. I mean, can you guys really say no about a free player coming back into your squad that scored 20 Premier League goals last year? I don't think you can.
You are still talking about Mourinho managing this club?
Well, do you really think he's going to be gone that quickly?
Mourinho is in the process of slowly phasing out Juan Mata, who has been the core of this team for the past 2 seasons.
Right.
And David Luiz, who last year people were talking about how he was going to be the next captain of Chelsea football.
Yeah.
So I would not put it past Mourinho to let him to be too stubborn
to bring him back
to just bring him back in.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we'll see. Otherwise, though, yeah, Everton, absolute domination over Stoke. They have a tough week ahead of them.
They do.
They have United and Arsenal.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough schedule.
Yowzers.
Not to mention, having just come off a pretty intense Merseyside derby as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's 3 really big games in a 2-week span, which would be tough for a lot of teams. And luckily, they have a lot of confidence rolling out of this match.
The team on top stayed on top. Cardiff City 0, Arsenal 3. Aaron Ramsey.
2 more goals. Is it too soon to say that he killed Paul Walker?
He so clearly did.
I know. I mean, it's the only logical explanation, and we've been waiting for weeks and weeks where we've been making rough connections between Ramsey goals and celebrity, and I'm doing air quotes right now, deaths. I think this one's clearly on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So
we were talking hours afterward. But I saw. I don't know if you saw this. Yes, maybe it might have been you that even retweeted this. But there's some people throwing out Gareth Bale comparisons now with Aaron Ramsey.
Well, there are people, and it's been going on.
As far as the style of season he's having.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a breakthrough season, and he's leading the league in scoring right now, I believe.
Yeah.
And considering last year he was the type of player that they were considering underperforming and potentially being, flogged off to, another team in the offseason. All those things were talked about. And suddenly he has just had this renaissance. And he was always a really highly rated prospect in his youth. And before he shattered his leg, a couple of years back, his
leg exploded off of his body.
It really did. Ramsey was talked about it as a potentially great player. And maybe we're finally seeing that come to fruition. It seems to have coincided with Ozil's arrival, and maybe having that pressure lifted off his shoulders was enough to kind of open things up. Now, is he a better player than Gareth Bale? Well, we'll see if, Madrid come calling with £100 million next summer to try to pry him away from Arsenal.
So maybe Galatasaray will come calling more likely with $50 million and all the Turkish bathhouse time he wants.
That would be pretty nice, though.
Yeah.
I'd be up for that.
So good massage.
It was kind of a deceiving score. Arsenal scored 2 of those goals in injury time. Flamini, a very odd goal for a defensive midfielder like Flamini, and then Ramsey getting a second. Cardiff played pretty well this match. I think for a majority of the match, I think they did well to contain Arsenal, despite the fact Arsenal clearly bossed possession in the match. Always got to hand it to Vincent Tan. A smile comes to my face every time I see him.
Did he have anybody important in his box?
I do remember a majority of the people in the box being Asian, and there being a few white people that looked a little uncomfortable being like the only white people in the box.
So it's probably just like the board of directors of Malaysian Airlines or whatever it is.
Perhaps. So I think Cardiff didn't do as poorly as the scoreline shows, but at the same time, Arsenal deservedly still sitting atop the league. Now 4 points clear.
Yeah, 4 points clear.
Ooh.
We'll get to who's right behind him.
Okay. Yeah, in just a little bit.
Moving on, and could this count as an Aaron Ramsey move right here? West Ham 3, Fulham 0, and while he's still alive, his job isn't. Martin Jol finally sacked after
much deliberation. I mean, we've been talking about it for weeks on the pod. Weeks. We thought he'd be gone ages ago.
Well, and back midway through November, they brought in the guy that was going to replace him, and everyone knew that this was the guy that was going to replace him.
Yeah, so they brought in former first-team coach, not manager, at Manchester United, Rene Mullenstein. He's also had stints in several other locations, was a head coach for Anji Makalachaka.
And he claims that him and Jol are boys.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have the quote on this. He kind of lied like he didn't even know this was coming. So
he is on apparently NBC in their little post game there before match of the day started. Throughout this little clip of him on Sky Sports doing a telephone interview, in which he said this: "It was definitely not something that I was anticipating. We wanted to turn this corner together." So Mullenstein is saying he didn't see Martin Jol getting sacked as something that was coming.
I mean, clearly he saw that was coming.
I tweeted it out. I was like, you didn't see the writing on the wall because you were the writing on the wall. You were the guy brought in to replace him.
I think he's being diplomatic, but I think
Sure, but it's absolutely asinine to say that. I mean, no one believes you.
Well, I mean, you can say anything you want in the press, and people are just going to write about it, and everyone will talk a bunch about, how could he really believe that? Like, that idiot. And that'll make a bunch of press, and hopefully it'll make his job a little bit easier.
Sure.
So, maybe he's playing a little bit of mind games.
But the reality is no one's buying your crap there.
No one is. That's pretty
no one's
transparent.
Buying your crap, Mullenstein.
No, not today. But I think the more interesting point that this really all kind of brings to light is, I think everyone did see the writing on the wall a couple weeks, 3 weeks ago when Mullenstein came in. Was this like an orchestrated handover? Like they were going to slowly bring him into the team, get him caught up?
Well, they're claiming it's not, but everything...
It kind of looks that way, and Jol's...
To the naked eye, it looks exactly that way.
Jol's comments in the press release that Fulham, put out were obviously very, apologetic, but also thankful of his time,
he didn't say
for the
this
board.
is an effing stitch-up?
No, I mean, it was a very, agreeable departure from the club, and it just feels really weird.
I'm just happy they let me cash a few more checks before they...
Thanks, guys. I like getting paid. And I'm sure he'll get a nice little severance package as well. But
good luck climbing out of 18th.
Yeah.
Later.
I know. I'll peace out. I'll do well without all this pressure that you guys are going to go through in this obvious relegation fight you're in.
Have fun with that.
Mullenstein's reputation is kind of big. A lot of people have talked about how skilled he is as a coach. This is really the first time he's taken the reins at a big club. And, Fulham aren't that big, but a team that actually has some notoriety, that's done well. Hell, they were in the Europa League final, as soon as 3 years ago. So this isn't a little team, and I think he's in for a pretty big fight. And I still kind of see Fulham as one of the favorites for going down.
Just a few numbers, or one glaring stat here from this match. Again, West Ham 3, Fulham 0. 0 shots on goal by Fulham. And that was countered by 12 shots on frame by West Ham.
Well, and Joe Cole and Carlton Cole scored for West Ham as well.
Joe Cole came in off the bench. A lot was talked about where he sat with old Sammy boy, because he left in a huff early in that Chelsea match. About 36 minutes in, he got pulled last week.
I do remember
Ripped
that.
his shirt off and ran down the tunnel.
Well, it's not unlike Joe Cole to have a little hissy fit.
That's why he's at West Ham now.
Well,
and not Chelsea or Liverpool or any other respectable club.
Remember when he was the next big thing?
At Chelsea, absolutely.
In England.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. He was gonna.
Well, hey,
be the guy.
He still got it.
2010 was gonna be his year.
It really was. And in all fairness, he probably was one of England's best players during that World Cup. Not
best enough.
No, not enough.
Newcastle 2, West Brom 1. It's just got to be said. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of notes on this. I don't know what you got, but
yeah, it was an entertaining match.
Yeah, Newcastle just quietly just creeping on up. They're in 6th place.
Man, I mean, it wasn't long ago that we were talking about them as relegation candidates.
Yeah, we had Hardu right there on the seat next to Jol.
Yeah.
Ready to get the eject button pulled.
Now he's in European places, They could very well be back down in the relegation fight,
I was going to say,
you just never know.
A couple weeks, they can plummet horribly.
But they're in a good run of form right now.
Plus, the winter time comes where they're playing their games up north.
Yep.
Norwich 1, Crystal Palace 0. I have 0 on this game.
Gary Hooper.
Could not care.
Gary Hooper scored.
Finally.
Norwich also, pulling themselves up a little bit. They've seemed like certain relegation candidates, and now they're stringing some results together. So
starting to.
Yeah, starting to.
We'll see if that continues.
Yeah.
It helps when you're playing Crystal Palace.
Yeah, that does help quite a bit.
Another game that really just did not make a ping on the radar. Villa 0, Sunderland 0.
Free Josie.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's just a few little quick American notes. Obviously, Guzan, another clean sheet. All right.
Yeah, everyone fist pump.
But, yeah, Josie outscored in a match where, let's be honest, it's a 0-0 match. You just need one goal.
Why not bring on your most
one.
Expensive signing of the summer,
He's sitting there. He's right there.
Well.
No, he was on the bench, and he stayed there.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing that I said was a really big question mark about Josie going there in the first place was, is he going to get enough playing time? And, we had talked about with him being their biggest signing, maybe he'd be almost guaranteed of that. But it seems like Gus Poyet really doesn't have any designs on using it.
I mean, this is a perfect example. You need a goal. You need some offense. Mm-hmm. He's right there on the bench.
Yep.
And yet, those were not the options that were taken.
I mean, do you think it's time to start talking about maybe Josie finding a loan move away?
I've been saying that.
Yeah.
I was shouted down a few times by some people in conversations.
I mean, it seems
like, oh no, they spent all this money. Then why would they do that? Well, if you're going to spend all this money, use them because now you're currently not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't want to be loaned off that quickly after arriving at a new team, and you were kind of billed as the big striker for him. So it's a little concerning, but maybe it is something that Josie needs to be thinking about.
Well, and from a U.S. perspective,
this
is not beneficial.
Yeah.
If he's going to spend the rest of this season just hanging out, getting just crap minutes on a horrible club,
right?
That's not helping anybody.
No, it's not. So maybe something to think about, Josie. But we're on your side. Break in, man. We need you to.
Let's move to Sunday. That's where the business happens.
Yeah, there was a lot going on Sunday.
Sundays this season have just been insane.
And I
feel like the craziest results have only happened on Sundays.
They really do. So, do you want to start with the early one?
Yeah, we'll start with the earliest one.
Okay.
Too early. I didn't realize it was starting that early.
Well,
I got up and I was like, hey, it's halftime.
Yeah, I set my alarm for 6:30 for this morning to make sure I was up for the Spurs match. I still missed the first 2 minutes of the game.
See, I woke up, my daughter, Lena, woke me up.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea soon followed, so both of them woke me up at about 7:30, which is usually like, boom,
right at kickoff.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sit them down with their bottles, pop on the TV, pop on the laptop, whatever. And away I go.
Well, for whatever reason, they bumped us up super early this morning. So it was a 7 a.m. kickoff for what could have been one of the big games of the day, and it was still a pretty big game. But Spurs 2, Manchester United 2.
Big ramifications with two of the top teams settling for for draws on a week where some of the other clubs were playing lighter opponents. Of course, that didn't work out for certain people.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to let you roll on this one. First, I got to say, the Sandro goal, I could just sit there and watch that.
It was a beauty, wasn't it?
I was hoping his celebration was to, like, pantomime some vomiting or something like that.
Yeah.
That was just my kind of thing. I was just wanting that. Yeah.
I mean, it was a fabulous strike.
It sort of did suck that, like, it's a 2-2 draw, and, like, both Spurs goals were, like, works of art.
Mm-hmm.
And both United goals were just Wayne Rooney just farting around.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really frustrating game from a Tottenham perspective. I was definitely biting my nails, white-knuckled all the way through the end. We'll start off with Walker's goal. A free kick pretty early on in the match, and he goes right under the wall with a little blast.
You see this done a lot, and it's normally like, oh, that trick never works.
Yeah, and somehow Kyle Walker pulls it off.
Yeah.
And he actually took a majority of Spurs set pieces today and did fairly well with them, which I was a little shocked by. Walker, when he hits free kicks, has one way that he really hits it, and it's powerfully.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a little one-dimensional, and there
Just
were
bombs
some
it, yeah.
random tweets today coming out saying, like, oh, he's the next Bale. We don't have anything to worry about, which I think is ridiculous.
That's
Seeing
pretty
as how
much insanity.
Bale's probably one of the best free kick takers on the planet. It's weird that he's also on a team with probably the best free kick taker on the planet. But that said, so Walker's goal was nice, but he proceeds to get an assist to Wayne Rooney like minutes later.
Yeah.
Someone compared his odd little flick attempt clearance as something that Bergkamp would have done intentionally. Kyle Walker did unintentionally.
Yeah.
And that sweet little flick right to Wayne Rooney, who poked home. So before we even really had
good ticky-tacky football there.
Before we even had time to celebrate our goal, Kyle Walker shot himself in the foot immediately. So it was disappointing in that respect. But then Sandro, like you were saying, came in the second half and had this ridiculous beat where he beat cleverly twice on the dribble and then blasted home a shot that froze De Gea. De Gea didn't even move.
No.
It was amazing.
He
So the problem with that,
flat-footed.
Sandro scored a blast. I don't know if it was the beginning of last season or at the tail end of the prior one. But then every time he got the ball within 30 yards, he went crazy on his shots.
I remember when I played hockey growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the teams I played was a roller hockey team I played on. One of my buddies, Brian, he played defense and I played defense, so we were paired up occasionally. And he always, because I think it happened, he made it once, so he tried it always. Second, he would bring the puck into the offensive zone, just launch, just the
hardest shot possible.
Yeah. It would generally take off, and sometimes it was high enough that there was, like, in the rafters, there were these big, like, American and Canadian flags hanging out.
Right.
It would generally hit one of those.
Nice.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, so I'm worried that we may get a little bit more of that from Sandro. But if he's going to hit shots like that every once in a while, I'll give it to him. That's perfectly fine. But again, without enough time to even react or settle into us potentially winning this match, we piss one away and Lloris brings down
moments later.
Yeah, moments later. Yeah, and brings down Welbeck on a breakaway.
What was your feeling on that one?
So
there was contact.
There was contact for sure. I do think Welbeck went down pretty easily.
Yeah.
I think a small gust of wind would have seen him knocked over as well, a fart even perhaps. But there's really no denying that Lloris made contact with him, and I don't think he really even needed to be out in that position making that kind of contact. So I'm more likely to blame it on us for making that happen. So, and Dembele definitely was the giveaway on that one as well. So Spurs again shot themselves in the foot after two really nice goals, like you were saying.
At least Lloris, kept his head away from knees.
Yeah.
This time.
Yeah, agreed. That was good.
One positive.
Yeah, one positive to take out of it. So overall, I'm really pleased with the performance that Spurs put in. We needed a reaction after that City game.
Yeah. You had to wash that taste out of your mouth.
There was tenacity in this team that we haven't seen in a long time, and there were a lot of suggestions in the midweek that AVB had lost the dressing room and that he was blaming the players and not blaming himself at all. And a lot of contention that was drilled up in the media, and this wasn't a sign of a team that had turned on its manager. It looked like a team that wants to win and is believing in things right now, and they responded well both times that United came in and scored. So,
well, I mean, what do you gauge the pulse on that, on the whole AVP thing? Like,
so
do you think there's legit worry, or at least legit grumblings within the front
club?
office?
I mean, I think there's concern. I definitely think there's concern, but I also think that Tottenham knew that this was a project, and I've been saying this a lot this year. I don't think that they are naive enough to think they could bring in that many players and be this all-conquering team that everyone wants them to be. So I think it's actually a little bit of a media agenda, and AVB actually lashed out a little bit after the match today. Yeah. And lashed out's probably the wrong word. If you watch the press conference at all, he was actually quite calm and respectful towards the people that were sitting in the room that had been slandering him all week. So if you get a chance, go out and watch that press conference. There was a lot of talk about it. But AVB basically said, hey, if you're going to criticize me, in my decision making and my intelligence, why don't you sit down and talk with me personally first, and we'll do an exclusive with you, and we'll make sure that you know me before you actually start talking about that. So it was a little odd. A lot of people are saying that maybe AVB shouldn't have been that vocal and critical of the people with gallons of ink.
Yeah, that always tickles me that, like, you always hear, like, people go, like, oh, I wish that manager would just speak his mind. Mm-hmm. And then a manager speaks their mind, and like, whoa, that was a bad choice.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
A bad decision there. Bad form.
No one's ever happy with him. And, people would never really complain when Sir Alex would openly question, reporters and ban them for months at a time. Everyone was cool with that. So I don't see what the big deal is with AVB, telling his critics, hey, back off a bit.
And I think, to be fair to AVB, they brought in quality players. Mm-hmm. It can't be all on him, the fact that some of them have been busts.
Well, and what people think, too, it's not just AVB. There's a sporting director that made all these decisions this summer in Franco Baldini. So you can't necessarily blame him for people that haven't really panned out. Now, I think, Nasser Chadley was a player that people had kind of called a dud, but I thought he was one of Spurs' better performers today. So I think there's still time for this team to bed in, find itself. There are probably going to be some additions in January, and we're probably going to need some in the summer. But I think this team definitely still has the capability of finishing top four. And despite all this turbulence and 3 losses in a row, we're still only 3 points off the top 4.
Yeah.
So
that's one way to look at it.
I'm not as panicked as people are really sitting in, and I don't think AVB's job was really in as much question as people were suggesting.
This match was kind of funny in the fact that, like, I noticed something I feel like I've noticed this before, but for the first time, it was so crystal clear on social media that the British people I follow and the American people I follow that talk about soccer had 2 completely different outcomes, had 2 completely different perspectives of that match. Mm-hmm. Everybody in England were talking about how this was just an unwatchable crap fest. And yet everyone, including myself in America, thought, well, that was a pretty decent game. You started yourself off at 7 in the morning.
For a neutral, I mean, it was a pretty back and forth game. Yeah. You weren't really sure who was going to win. It had me biting through my nails. But
so I feel like we want different, like, the American sports fan and the British sports fan, like, they expect or want different things out of a match.
Yeah, the British fans want, like, the beauty.
They want the beauty.
They want the game.
They want it to be tactically flawless. Mm-hmm. They want it to be like just a chess match.
Yep.
Where us Americans, I guess we're just idiots. We just want
gunslinging.
We just want to see people just going balls out.
Yeah, and that's definitely what was going on in this game. It wasn't, the sloppiest, or excuse me, the cleanest of games.
Yeah. I mean,
it was a little sloppy, but at the same time, I think it is a really good point. We seem to enjoy that madness.
It was just so crystal clear that, like, everybody that I followed that was in England was like, what an unwatchable piece of junk.
Yeah.
Sloppy, garbage.
No good defending.
Yeah. And then everyone else was like, and America was like, this was great. Oh, great pace to it.
Yep.
Back and forth. It's interesting to see that different cultures can breed different wants and needs out of sports.
Well, I mean, we do have a sport that's pretty prevalent in this country that every time you score, you get 6 points.
Yeah.
So.
Upwards of 8.
Yeah.
If you play your cards
sometimes
right.
8. Not Michigan.
No.
They can't do that.
That didn't happen.
We apologize to any Michigan-based fans listening in.
I thought it was the good move.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Hey,
But
it was ballsy.
It was balls out, and
Yeah,
I'm an American,
it really
so that's
was.
what I wanted to see.
If you don't know what we're talking about the Ohio State-Michigan football game. Huge rivalry. Ohio State nicked it out right at the very end.
Nicked it out. Michigan scores, had a chance to either kick the extra point,
Or go for 2.
go for 2 and the win. The tie with the extra point or the win, and they went for the win, and it got picked off.
Yeah. So
Ball
didn't really
game.
work out, but it was entertaining, and we as Americans love those gunslinging matches.
We love it.
So that's why we
Riverboat
like
gamblers.
this. That's why we like this United Spurs affair.
All right, let's move on to the match that followed that one up. Hull Tigers. Oh, wait, no, that's not what they want to be called.
No. Their fans still want to be Hull City AFC.
Yeah, Hull City AFC. I don't want to get anybody. I don't want anyone to die.
Nope.
I don't.
No, we'll get. Yeah, so they're.
I love the fans. I think they're great.
Yeah, their owner.
3.
Their owner prior to the match, Assam Alam, he's an Egyptian immigrant. He's been living in England for a really long time now, but he's now their outright shareholder, and he's the one who's been causing all the stink where he wants to officially change the name of the team to potentially just Hull Tigers. Not even Hull City Tigers, but just Hull Tigers.
A very Americanized sports name.
Yeah, he's
Hull, location,
mascot. He's called the name City, very common since there are a lot of other teams in England that go by the same name.
Sure.
And the fans, predictably have been very against this idea. And there's a group called City Till We Die that has been advocating that he shouldn't change the name. Stick with tradition.
They were out in full force at this match.
They were, and they were really, out for their owner's head.
Parading banners.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he was the one out for their heads.
Well, he was, because he told them, with a name like City Till You Die is a classic example of an owner that doesn't really understand how that's a pretty common phrase within the sport. He told them to die as soon as they like. So,
all right.
He would like.
Is it like, hey, if you guys are free this week, would you go ahead and die?
Go ahead and die, because I'm happy with that. He insinuated that the minority of these fans making a big stink about the name change should just go ahead and die, so the majority who want to watch good football can get on with it. They don't care about the name as long as they get to watch pretty football. And this week he delivered.
So what isn't a name? I mean, where do you stand on this? Do you think it's kind of a big stink about not that big of a deal?
Well,
at the end of the day, you're still Hull. You're still. I mean, the Tigers is still the mascot they've been with.
They've had that nickname for a long time.
Their colors aren't changing.
No, nothing's changing in that respect. I mean, it's one of those things that I'm surprised we've not seen more of that in England.
Sure.
And here in the U.S., we're kind of desensitized to it, with teams moving cities and franchises changing names. Or
franchises that don't change names, like the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes zero sense.
The L.A. Lakers.
Yeah, where there are no lakes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but we're used to this kind of stuff here. So for the American fan, we kind of go, well, it's not that big of a deal. And to me, I feel like, well, whatever. You're maintaining a majority of your identity. It's not like you're Cardiff, where you've completely changed colors and changed to a new mascot.
Yeah,
and all that kind
I think that's way more of a debacle.
But I understand. I get it. I'd be mad if, the Reds went and changed their name to something different here in Cincinnati. I mean, it would kind of chap me off a little bit as well. So I understand that, and I wouldn't like to see the tradition changed either. But maybe their owner has a point. Maybe they'll be more marketable.
Well, if they need to become more marketable, a 3-1 win over Liverpool
Good way to start.
It's one way to get it done.
Good way to start. So,
things started out bad for Liverpool before the match even got underway. News broke that Daniel Sturridge lost for, they say, 6 to 8 weeks, or if you're a mumbling Brandon Rodgers, it sounded like he said 68 weeks.
Yeah, he did say a little, sound a little bit like that. And
I was
I'm
like,
sure
oh,
a few
good Lord, that's a
jaws,
long time.
hit a few tables when that first came out. But, they, from the start, it almost looked like Liverpool were hungover from the news. Like they had found out today and everyone was bummed out about it.
It's like their dog died right before the match.
Yeah, exactly. And it was kind of amazing to see them come out as flat as they did. We haven't seen that much out of Liverpool. They've been a team that scored almost all their goals in the first half this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they started really, really slowly. So actually, Jake Livermore, a Spurs loanee, got them on the board pretty early on.
Yeah.
And kind of set everyone's lives on fire, at least on Twitter.
Yeah, for a while there, Stevie G eventually equalized things with a free kick.
Mm-hmm.
But then things laid on. Hull finally just said, F it. Let's just do this.
Well, Hull, Spurs have played them twice this season. We had to face them both in the Carling Cup? Or wait, it's not the
Capital One Cup.
The Capital One Cup.
Which is also a thing given to a mascot, I think, here in the States.
Yeah, exactly. And then had to play them that same week in the league as well, and only managed to score like 2 goals on them. Now, Tottenham haven't exactly been a team with goals pouring out of them, but Hull are a tricky team. They're really capable of absorbing pressure well and have a pretty lethal counter, and they showed that several times today against Liverpool, who, despite being a little wonky and not as fresh as they normally are, dominated play as much as you would expect. But that counterattack just seemed to catch them off guard and set pieces.
Yeah. And then, of course, the game was put on ice when neo-Nazi lookalike Skirtle just put it in his own net.
Yeah, he really
just
redirected a shot from former Spur as well, Tom Huddleston, who I think a lot of people were pulling for that not to be an own goal, not to be awarded to Skirtle, so that Huddleston could finally cut his hair.
That was the deal, right?
Yeah.
He scored.
He said he wasn't going to cut his hair and until he scored a goal. And today it looked like maybe they'd give it to him, but I think he would have been cheating himself if he would have cut his hair on that. So
I kind of like the way that it ended with Skirtle just face down. The best was, I think it was that goal. No.
No, it was the goal before where Kolo Touré
was punching the ground.
Yeah, it's really, beating the crap out of the ground. There's a GIF out there. I know I tweeted it out at some point today.
He lost his mind.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So if you're looking for a funny GIF of Kolo Touré beating the shit out of the ground, it's out there.
It's good. It's double fist. Just
Google
boom.
Google it.
He was not happy.
So, want to talk a little bit about the next result?
Yeah. So then the match that followed that up would be Chelsea 3, Southampton 1.
Right.
It became squeaky bum time extremely early for Chelsea.
It really did. So
14 seconds.
Jay Rodriguez. We've had a bunch of quick goals this year in the Premier League, which is a little weird.
Yeah.
You don't expect that many.
Yeah.
Especially when one of them was scored by a goalkeeper.
Yeah, that was the weirdest.
Yeah. So, but Jay Rodriguez got Southampton on the board, pretty dang early.
Yeah, Michael Essien. When I saw the roster announced, I was like, oh, Essien instead of John Obi Mikel. That's
interesting.
It's an interesting move. I don't know if I like that. And I didn't like it.
No.
Very early on.
Yeah, it was a poor back pass from Essien. You kind of wonder what the hell he was even thinking in the first place. But he was quickly yanked at the half.
Yeah. He got
upon such a mistake.
He got the Showtime at the Apollo hook on that one.
Yanked directly off the field.
The guy came and with the broom and took him right off stage.
Yeah, and Demba Ba came on.
Demba Ba came on, and that was an interesting one. I do first got to point out, for I want to say maybe the first or possibly the second time this season, we saw the attacking midfield combo of Mata, Oscar, and Hazard in an EPL match. I think we've seen it in some midweek garbage.
Right.
But that was the combo that this team pretty much lived off of
last year. Yeah, exactly.
They were the three amigos.
Mm-hmm.
And yet this was really one of their first performances as a troupe together. And I got to tell you, it was
a little underwhelming.
It's frustrating right now as a Chelsea supporter because We got the win. We turned this match around. Cahill and Terry get 2 great headers from Mata. It should be pointed out.
Right.
Bring Chelsea back into the lead. Ba sneaks that one late in the 90th. But we're still left with all the same questions and problems as we had at any other point in the season.
Yeah.
Our strikers are a mess.
Yes.
You know, I was quoting kind of a common phrase in the NFL and in college football. If you have 2 starting quarterbacks, you have 0 starting quarterbacks.
Right.
So if you got 2 guys that are battling it out, that means you don't have one that's good enough to actually start.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what they have at the striker position. They have 3 guys, and yet they combine to make 0 effective strikers.
Well, you know, Demba Ba did get a goal today. I think
he got a goal today, and he had one a couple weeks ago. I think against Schalke, he got one late. But I don't know. In the matches, he's where he's got more time. He was completely ineffective. I think earlier in the season, that Villa match, he pretty much just camped out offside. That was pretty infuriating.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that Mourinho doesn't know his first team still.
No.
And, you know, selecting that, and it's kind of a self-created problem that they have at Chelsea where they have so many damn good players that it's hard to pick your 11 every week. And
it is, but at the striker position, I don't know if, you know, in the midfield, you have a lot of great options.
Right.
And then, you know, their back line has been pretty much the same now that David Luiz is quote-unquote hurt.
Yeah. Well, it's just a situation that seems like nobody knows who they're going to be playing with and who's going to be playing.
Right.
And there's no confidence in the team, but luckily you have enough individual skill in that squad to pull it through. And I think if you guys
but how long is it going to last?
Well, and that's the thing. I think and
how long is it going to be good enough? Because that's what we've been doing essentially the last 2 years.
That's true.
And it hasn't really been good enough.
Well, I think it's one of those things, and maybe you can just pin your hopes on this and hope this is what's coming around the corner, but you hope, perhaps, that Mourinho is going to figure it out. And that when he does figure it out, that you guys will be absolutely terrifying.
But I think he'll figure it out at every other point, except for the striker position. The only figuring it out is getting in the DeLorean and going back in time and not letting Lukaku leave. Or in January, as he pretty much said he wasn't going to do now this week, go get a freaking striker that can play.
Well,
and you go make a run at someone like a Falcao or shoot for the moon like a Lewandowski or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But go for somebody that can come in and actually be a legit goal-scoring threat from the striker position. Because right now you don't have that.
Well,
either 3.
To be fair, when you look at that striker list that you have right now, on paper, you have a £50 million Fernando Torres.
Mm-hmm.
You have Demba Ba, who only a year and a half ago was lighting the Premier League on fire.
Sure.
And you have Samuel Eto'o, who has lifted Champions League trophies with Barcelona, Inter Milan, and has played really well for, a long time.
He's 32 now, though.
I'm just making, playing, devil's advocate here a little bit. But at the same time, on paper, you get why they didn't go out and spend another $60 million plus that would be necessary to land a player like Falcao.
But I just think for the same reason that Lukaku didn't get his chances, that Sturridge didn't get his chances, I think needs to be the same reason why you don't sit here and wait for one of these 3 guys to figure it out.
Right.
This is Chelsea. There is a level of expectations right now of winning, and we don't have time for guys to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's why Sturridge didn't get his minutes, because we didn't have time for him to figure it out.
It's true.
We need you to score now or go. Lukaku, score now or go.
Well.
And now I think you got to look at the 3 guys they have there and say the same thing.
Exactly.
So I don't know. We'll see. It's frustrating.
Well, you have a couple games this week. to test out some more formations. I'm sure you guys will toss things around a little bit more.
Of course, despite the frustration, we are 4 back of Arsenal and in second place.
Yeah. Can't really complain too much, can you?
Silver lining.
Yeah, exactly.
The last match of the weekend, City 3, Swansea 0.
Negredo and a Nasri brace enough to see Man City's home form continue to sparkle. They tore apart a Swansea side that had been more or less wishy-washy this year.
And that goal differential now stands at 25.
That's just ridiculous.
25 goals.
Well, if they can ever learn how to win away from home, that team's going to be menacing. So,
would you say right now, though, with that goal differential the way it is, are they, even though you have Arsenal where they are, even though you have Chelsea lingering at second, you got to look at City and say that's the best club right now?
Yeah.
I mean, they are, if you had to pick right now who's winning, I'm picking City.
Yeah, City are definitely the best form side in the league at the moment. I think Arsenal are going to drop some points eventually.
I feel like it's coming.
They've been playing really, really well. And, yes, they played well at the tail end of last season as well. I just can't see some of their cracks not showing up a little bit here at some point soon. And they're destined to drop some points. That happens every year. So, could I see them slipping up and letting a team like City get back in? Yeah, absolutely. And there are a lot of Arsenal fans that were trumpeting a lot this week about how far they are ahead of everyone in the table. They just seem to have short memories on how fortunes can change so quickly in this league. So,
yeah,
we'll see what gets to happen.
Let's move over to the Champions League midweek action. Painted the picture for a decent chunk. We got half, I think.
Yep.
Of
the next 16
that'll go into the knockout round. And
right.
What better way to get into the knockout round than by losing? FC Basel 1,
Chelsea
0.
Tripped your way into the round of 16.
We're just going to go ahead and back into this one,
if
you don't mind us.
So thanks to results, you guys squeaked through despite the loss. So congratulations, you qualified.
Eto got hurt. That was delightful. That was a delightful way to start things, him just blowing a hammy or whatever.
Yeah. So
about 20 minutes into the match.
I think that guarantees you'll bring someone in January.
Yeah, I mean, both him and Fernando keep going down with knocks.
Mm-hmm.
They still qualify. The goal that they gave up, it was kind of funny. They put a camera right on Jose, and he looks back at his coaching staff and goes, fell asleep.
Yeah.
We fell asleep.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. So
in the 87th minute, they almost had the draw that would have, regardless of what the other match was, put them through. And a win would have gave them, top
of the group.
Yeah.
So,
but instead, they eke it out.
Yeah, they did.
And a 1-0 defeat. Basel takes both of them against Chelsea.
Did. They swept them again.
Yeah, beat them 2-1 at Stamford Bridge.
Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive for a little Swiss side. But I still don't think that was the biggest upset of the round. Do you? No, I'd give that to Ajax, who knocked off mighty Barca.
Barca, who again lost today. That's 2 in a row without Messi that they lose.
Yeah, so they're clearly kind of tripping things up a little bit, missing their talisman that he's out through the new year. So I think that's a big loss, for Barcelona as far as psyche goes. And with them losing again today, as you'd suggested, that's maybe a little bit of a concern for them. Atletico, they continue to rip apart opposition in La Liga, and Madrid are playing pretty well with my boy Gareth Bale.
Of course, Madrid is dealing with the same problem. Ronaldo now going to be out for some
time.
Ronaldo
out injured, but it doesn't really matter because Gareth Bale dropped a hat trick.
Just freaking slotting him home.
Yeah, so 2 of his goals were awfully lucky. But that said, back to the Champions League.
The really unfortunate thing was for AC Milan. They did their job and they won their match, but they just needed Barca to win, which we kind of talked about last week. Like, that's pretty light.
Seems pretty much a guarantee.
Pretty easy scenario.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
No, they went ahead and they beat Celtic 3-0, but Barca didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
They didn't. So, interesting.
So Barca was already in.
Yes, they were.
Chelsea now in. Manchester United. They get in with a absolute beatdown
of Leverkusen.
Yeah. 5-0. Off the heels of a little flight scare.
Yeah.
For a club with some tragic history of flying.
Into that country in particular.
League.
Yeah, in Champions League, into Germany in particular. So there were definitely some feathers.
Apparently there was a plane on the ground where they were trying to land.
Yes.
Apparently you can't do that.
No.
They
are not made for piggybacking.
No. They strongly recommend you don't land on top of another
pilots
plane.
that I've talked to do not like to land on other planes.
So they had to abort landing, and everyone kind of freaked out, but it was all good and didn't hurt their form.
It didn't. They seem to just pile it on, so they're into the next round on that result.
Real Madrid gets the 4-1
win at Galatasaray.
Yeah. So
Gareth Bale on the score sheet in that match as well.
So I guess I probably won't be seeing my boy Drogba on U.S. television for the rest of this year.
Seems pretty unlikely.
Ah, boy.
Yeah.
One of the big matches, though, Dortmund 3-1 winners over Napoli. You know, the group of death is living up to its hype. It's going to go into the last day, match day 6.
Right.
We'll decide who's coming out of the group of death. Marseille's out. They have 0 points.
Yeah, so it's pretty likely they're not going through.
Arsenal has 12, and then Dortmund and Napoli both sit with 9. So Arsenal will play Napoli to wrap things up.
Napoli needing a win.
And Dortmund gets the cakewalk there with Marseille, who's already done and dusted.
Yeah, but we said that about Barcelona, you know?
True.
So they could still trip it up.
Oh, call it right now. Who's moving on?
I see Dortmund will go through.
Dortmund goes there?
Yeah, Dortmund will go through.
So there won't be a 2-year streak of finals participant not making it onto the knockout round.
I hope not. Just for entertainment factor alone, we need to see more of Jurgen Klopp yelling at things.
We do need to see him. Speaking of, by the way, PSG gets in. They beat Olympiacos 2-1. Champions League came with a little bit of a bonus for us this week as Landon Donovan made his studio analyst debut.
Yeah, I think Landy Cakes did a fairly good job.
I thought he did really well.
Yeah.
He gave Chelsea a good roasting, which they definitely deserved.
Right.
I remember Stone asked him, who's the best striker setup for Chelsea? And he goes, well, he plays for Everton.
Yeah. Quality response. Definitely a team he has a little favoritism for as well.
Which
he was linked to today as well.
And news came out about that. There's a report, ESPN was floating a report, I believe yesterday, that Bruce Arena is going to he's not going to
allow Landon to go out on loan.
Yeah.
Over the winter. So we'll see.
Do you think Jurgen gives old Bruce a call and said,
yeah, we'd like him to be in a little bit better form. You know, I think with the time off that he took, it'd probably be beneficial for Landon to get some more minutes in there. But, we'll see how that shifts out.
Yeah.
We'll see how that shifts out. But
I was a little puzzled and kind of disappointed to see that news that Bruce was putting the kibosh on the Everton move.
Yeah. He'd be a weird fit for him now. I don't know that would necessarily be a great move for him. Because I don't know that
minutes, though.
Yeah.
I think.
Would he get that many minutes in that Everton side right now, though?
Well, it'd be better than the 0 he'd be getting hanging out on the beach throwing the frisbee around with the dog.
Fair enough. But I do think Donovan, Tim Howard also called the Spurs game again. That's his second match.
He did better.
Yeah, he did better.
He probably, talked to some people, had some consultants.
He drops interesting tidbits. It's just his delivery is a little monotone, a little dry.
I noticed, he was still a little quiet. Mm-hmm. He's kind of not really getting animated.
Yeah. So
I did notice that he seemed to not pull all of his punches like he did his first performance, where he didn't want to say a mean thing about anybody and didn't want to ruffle any feathers. He straight up said a couple times, the ref blew that call. That was a crap call by the ref. And he called out some others. I mean, he actually
confidence.
Gave some real opinion instead of just kind of tried to toe the line with everybody, which he definitely did in that first match. He didn't want to be negative on anybody.
Yeah, well, if you want to be a better announcer, you got to be willing to skewer a little bit. So.
But, I mean, it is hard for him in his case. I mean, he's in the league. These are his peers.
Well, how many times do you see, like, a current player calling a match in his own league? I mean, I think that's pretty rare.
Almost never.
Yeah. So, good on both of you guys. Improved performances and a good first effort for Landon.
We'll kind of look to see, once we get closer to that match day 6, who is going to need to have what happen to move on, be part of that final 8 to get into the knockout rounds that start in February. But, we mentioned Landon, we mentioned Tim Howard, we're talking about some of the American players, Bruce Arena. It's time to talk a little MLS Cup.
Yeah. So let's go from Americans abroad to the American game itself here domestically. MLS Cup Final, back from its 2-week sabbatical.
It's slumber.
Yeah, it's slumber. The second 2-week sabbatical we've had in the last couple months in MLS playoffs.
Consumed a lot of tryptophan.
Yeah, it did. It ate a bunch of turkey at Thanksgiving, just like the rest of us.
Just like Seinfeld wanted it.
Yes, exactly. But we do get to see the last match of the 2013 MLS season this weekend. Saturday kickoff at 4 p.m. As Jeremy noted earlier, we do have some competition for both airway attention and for general sporting attention in general.
SEC championship game, Baylor, Texas.
Yeah, those are kind of big.
People kind of pre-gaming for the Big Ten championship, ACC championship, and the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, that
all happen
later that day.
That evening,
Yeah, but they do have direct kickoff conflicts with those first two. But either way, we're getting on. It's a good time for a match to get out and watch it.
But, hey, we should totally have the MLS regular season weekly competition with football and other American sports.
Yeah,
that'll totally work well.
Yeah, it probably will. So if you are wanting to watch this match, though, if you're in Cincinnati, you can actually come out and watch it with us. Well, at least me, for sure.
TBA.
You're TBD, yeah. But we will be doing a little watch party down at Rhine House and over the Rhine, just north of downtown Cincinnati. We'll be there. I'll be giving away one of the shirts from the Wrong Side of the Pond shop, so definitely try to make it out. I've got a couple. You can register yourself for winning a shirt.
It's good shirts.
Yeah.
I like them.
You can register one by actually going to our Facebook or Google Plus pages and actually registering and saying you're going to come to the event.
I wore mine yesterday.
Did you?
Because I needed something nice and soft on my skin because I had to drive
a
whole 9-hour drive back.
It's a great shirt for a long drive.
Oh, because I overheat when I drive.
Yeah, I get that.
My wife doesn't want me to turn it. For some reason, she won't let me turn the AC on when it's 25 degrees outside.
Yeah, it's the last day of November, Jeremy.
So I drove in gym shorts and my Wrong Side of the Pond T-shirt.
Nice.
In the winter.
Yeah. But we will be giving away a shirt, so be sure to come out. Kickoff is at 4 o'clock, so make sure you get out there a little bit early. Find yourself a spot at the bar or one of the tables, but we'd love to have you out. But it's not just about our watch party, of course. It's about the match itself between who I predicted to make the final.
Yeah. Toot your horn.
Yeah, I'm going to toot my horn a little bit. The home side Sporting Kansas City will be facing off against Real Salt Lake. So, who you got for this one?
Yeah, it's hard to root against the home side.
Right.
So I'm not going to.
You're not going to.
I'm going to go KC.
You're going KC?
I'm saying it's a 2-1 winner.
Okay. 2-1 winner for KC. Mm-hmm. So I think Salt Lake are probably the team playing better football at the moment. They handled Portland really, really well, and Portland had kind of been one of the informed sides of late in MLS, and they really kind of took it to them. So while I think that Real Salt Lake are playing the better football at the moment, I got to agree with you. The home side, with all the energy that stadium generally brings.
Oh, yeah.
I do think that'll give KC a little bit of an advantage. Now, they did play once earlier this season at Rio Tinto in Salt Lake, and Sporting KC actually came out 2-1 winners in that one as well. So
I think, you said that Salt Lake's got the momentum. They're playing maybe some better football right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get in those little one-off situations, one match, 90 minutes, that's it. Anything can happen. I think it's things like home crowd, momentum like that, in-game momentum that's going to carry you.
Yeah, well, I think that's absolutely a great point. You know, these two teams, there's not a whole lot of love lost between them. And that match earlier this season, there were actually 6 yellow cards and an ejection. And on top of that, you know, there was just a lot of other drama that was going on in the game. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game. These are two of the best tactical sides in MLS. Jason Kreis is a fabulous coach. You know, definitely something that we could see goals in for sure, you know, as far as entertaining games go. But I think it's going to be a big match. You know, the hype ahead of this, despite the fact that we've had this long layoff, is so much so that ticket prices are actually the highest they've been for an MLS Cup Final in over 5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
How much do you think of that, though, is the buzz right there locally in KC?
Well, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, Sporting Park isn't really large. I think it only seats about 23,000 people. So high demand, obviously, and a small, you know, number of supply is going to make prices go up a little bit. And, you know, the last time Kansas City as a city won a professional sports title was when this actual club under a different name, the lovely name Kansas City Wizards.
Yeah, the Wiz.
The Wiz, which is still one of the best professional sports team names of all time.
Best or worst?
Yeah, I think best.
I'm a Washington Bullets guy myself.
Yeah. Who cares if it's a little controversial?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Does it promote the fact that it's the murder capital of the United States? Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it does.
Let's just go with it.
Yeah, let's just roll. But the Wizards actually won back in 2000. So the last time this city's even seen, you know, any sort of title at all, it came from this very club. And this club's really risen since that point. Sure. You know, a few years ago, there was a lot of talk that they might get contracted. So after they turned themselves around, built Sporting Park, it's done really well. But ticket prices, if you are trying to snag a late one here, are currently averaging out about $308. So
is that like StubHub or whatever?
StubHub, I think, you know, if you're looking at ticket prices, if there are any available seats still left, I think that's averaged in there as well. So kind of crazy to think, but normal tickets there average about $67. So gives you a little comparison.
So what you're saying, though, is the cheaper, smarter option would be to join you /
potentially
us.
You. Yeah, us.
At Ryan House.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's free to show up, if nothing else.
Free to show up.
Yeah, now
loiter.
Yeah, and it's, you know, Cincinnati's pretty centrally located, so I think if you're anywhere within like a 4-hour drive, you know, it'd be pretty reasonable to show up. So I'd love to have you out. I'm sure Ryan House would love to have you out as well. So maybe you'll see Jeremy and you'll get to shake his hand.
Maybe.
You know, a couple other things.
Can I bring my children?
You know, I've seen babies at that bar before, so I think it's in play. I fully intend to bring my child next year. So,
sweet. Go for it.
So another thing to keep in mind is Salt Lake have actually won a title before as well.
Fairly recently, I guess.
Fairly recently, 2009. So whoever wins this second one.
That was a good one, too.
That was a good final. I was actually at the Eastern Conference final that they won. So wrap your brain around Salt Lake City winning an Eastern Conference title.
Well, they would, yeah. Someone had to win the wrong one because they played L.A. in the final.
Yeah, that's very true. So, you know, whoever wins the second one or whoever wins this one will be pulling up their second title.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting fact there as well. So, again, if you're going to be anywhere remotely close to Cincinnati, come out and join us.
You're plugging the crap out of this.
Yeah, I'm plugging the crap out of this guy. Come down and join us at Ryan House. You might even win a free shirt.
They got beer.
Yeah.
They got
water.
TVs.
Yeah. They have a full bar as well if you're not up for beer.
They have you.
Yep.
They have your giveaway.
My giveaway.
They have
2 of MLS's best teams playing.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
Good match.
Yeah. And some of Cincinnati's finest soccer aficionados will also be out rubbing shoulders with you as well. So
local luminaries?
Yeah, luminaries. So come out for the atmosphere. Come out and meet us. Shake a hand. You can ask us questions in person if you're.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
People.
I'll write them all down. I always keep a notepad with me. I'm just kidding. I'm totally not writing anything down.
If I wear driving gloves when I shake your hand, don't be offended.
No. Well, I hope that you're wearing your, Chelsea shirt over top of perhaps.
I'm going to go Vincent Tan style.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I'll go full suit with the Chelsea, with my Torres jersey. I'm not even going to wash. I'm wearing it right now. I'm not going to wash it. So it might be a little gamey.
Yeah, absolutely.
But because I don't know if it's been washed actually before this use.
Interesting.
Kind of just threw it on at halftime, just kind of in a
Oh, shoot,
panic.
I should probably put this on for good luck. Vincent Tan.
Are you saying that's what I was thinking?
Maybe.
Because that totally wasn't it.
Yeah, okay. So if you see a Vincent Tan-looking dude at Ryan House on Saturday, you'll know it's probably Jeremy.
With my driving gloves.
With his driving gloves, yeah. He doesn't look Asian, so just keep that in mind.
No, I'm pretty pale.
Yeah.
Pretty white.
So.
I got no hair. Except for on my face.
Yeah. Well, cool. Anything else?
No.
Yeah, I think I'm sitting about the same boat. So, if you do have any questions that you would like for us to tackle on episode 17, always feel free to drop us a line at wrongsideofthepond at gmail.com or wrongsideofpond at Twitter or at Jeremy Lance on Twitter.
Yeah, I actually just switched up my Twitter a little bit. I used to have it connected to my Facebook, so I always felt bad tweeting too much about soccer.
Right.
I don't want to just crush my Facebook friends. Just
with all your updates.
Yeah, the feed just crushed with me just whining about Chelsea's
so you chopped
strikers.
it loose.
Yeah, so I chopped that loose. Now I'm just free-balling it over there on Twitter. Just talking.
It feels so much better when you do
that.
It does.
I feel like, I can just rattle off like 10 tweets, and I don't have to feel like somebody I went to high school
all
with
my friends.
Oh, you're ruining my Facebook.
Yeah, I hate reading about soccer in my Ohio State posting updates.
Quickly, stuff to look forward to this week and this weekend. As we said, we had midweek EPL.
Mm-hmm.
Really only match to worry about or of relevance on paper. The blood match.
Oh, yeah.
Everton v.
Manchester United. Yeah.
David Moyes returns to Goodison Park. Strap up your balls.
Do you think booze will rain down on him, or will the Everton faithful be grateful for all the years of service that he put in for the Toffees?
I think all the fans that at one point in time bought a Fellaini fright wig will go ahead and throw that onto the pitch.
Hopefully on fire.
Yeah, light it up. Light it up.
I'd be interested to watch that.
But Everton's week is not done yet.
Nope.
Weekend action, you got Newcastle, Man United. That could be decent. I mean, Newcastle actually right now is ahead of United. So.
Yeah, I mean, the way they're playing, you can't really argue too much about that.
City, Southampton, another top-tier matchup. But, Everton, it's going to be a week for you.
Yeah.
You got United at Wednesday. Then you got
Table
Arsenal.
toppers. Yeah, the table toppers are up next. So that's a pretty frightening week for the Toffees.
But for a lot of us, attention will be on Friday morning. 11 a.m. is when ESPN 3 takes the broadcast. ESPN 2 will pick it up a half an hour later at 11:30.
So the pre-show to the pre-show
of the World Cup draw.
Okay.
Let's go ahead, make your last second simulator.
Get them in.
Tries.
I've just completely backed off that thing because I don't need to worry myself anymore.
Me and my brother were playing around with it over the week.
It's fun for a few minutes.
Because you click it too many times and I just did 5 and they were all just
terrible.
Just instant death for the U.S.
Yeah, I'm just gonna deal with what happens actually on Friday,
So we'll have that to look forward to talk about next week.
Yeah, we'll have that. A bunch of Premier League action, clearly.
Well, obviously, we'll recap the MLS Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2 weeks of EPL pushed into one. MLS Cup, World Cup draw.
Feel the excitement.
It's going to be a big show next week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
All righty, folks.
It's been fun.
Later.